So I'll just hit the record button here and we'll get going. So it's the EDSE reflection. So now we know that we've got 7 standards as teachers. And to begin this week off, I throw you a little bit of inspiration on a stick, a guy called Taylor Marley. And I won't play it here because we often have trouble with the digital video coming through with the video tracks playing in Zoom. So I won't waste our time here by playing it, but I do encourage you to look at the online video. Taylor Marley is this really eccentric American. He's a slam poet. And not only is he a slam poet, but he's also a teacher. And so he talks about a dinner party where one of the lawyers at the table says, "Oh, come on, Taylor, you're a teacher. Tell us what you make." And his response will just make you smile because really, when you think about it, Australia's a lot better than the States. We get paid almost twice as much here for teaching, but it's not a career you go into really if you intended to become rich and famous. Whereas Taylor Marley, a brilliant presentation. He'll remind you of some of the reasons why you're doing what you're doing. So it's just a nice little bit of inspiration on a stick for you. So the EDSE standards. Now there are workbooks to go with the EDSE standards. Now hopefully you're being exposed to some of them at times and some stage of your program. Because ultimately when you sit down to do your interview, if you're going to join Education Queensland, you'll be sit down and you half an hour before your interview, you'll be handed a series of questions. And those questions, for instance, will be demonstrate questions. They won't be tell me about this or tell me about that, or they may start that way, tell me about a time when you did this, and then tell me about a time when this went wrong and what you did to fix it. And do you have any evidence in your portfolio to support that? So the EDSE standards are all about evidence-based practice. And you know, as this deputy principal here talks about from the ACT, it's about breaking down silos of understanding. And when we try to break down the silos of understanding, what we try to do is flush good practice out into the open. And this is something that Taylor Marley talks about. You know, it's about quality teaching, and here's the terms we use here, and breaking down the silos of practice that keep you independent, keeps you separate from other teachers. And you'll know this from different schools when you get along to different schools. Some schools have a really open sharing framework, and this is something we talked about with the PLN sharing. Sometimes you get into a good group of people engaged in good professional practice and willing to share it. Sometimes you get into other communities and cultures of practice where it's about, you know, putting your hands over your desk so no one can see what you're doing. And they're the silos of practice that we're really trying to break down. And so the standards were introduced in 7 different areas to create quality standards. And most of you will know the Melbourne Declaration. It pops up in a lot of courses here at CQU. And the 2 basic goals coming from that Makicha document back in 2008, basically where the Australian schooling promotes equity and excellence. Now, they're 2 difficult terms. Equity, if you look at in Australia in political connotations, equity means everybody gets the same. Whereas if we really look at equity, it's about access. It's about access to excellence. And so goal number 1 is to create access to excellence. And we know with Gonski too now that, you know, we're actually looking at increased school funding per capita across the country. Goal number 2 is all young Australians will become successful learners, confident and creative individuals, and active and informed citizens. Let's hope. I mean, that's the Aristotelian view of the world, isn't it? When we go back to Greece and ancient Greece, you know, Aristotle said, let's all be citizens. Let's be successful learners. Let's be confident and creative individuals, and let's be active and informed citizens. And let's engage in society, in political as well as social and economic society. And so, yeah, these are really interesting goals, important goals at a time when, you know, the 2 big meta-narratives in the world at the moment are the notion of economic growth and also the economic bottom line. And when you have growth and a bottom line, of course, you know, you're creating conditions for a race. And in a race, you know, 1 person wins and 7 people miss out. And teachers, our challenge is there to pick up the 7 who miss out, to actually develop quality experiences for them that's going to prop them up and allow them to take another bite at life, another bite at the cherry, and another go in an environment where their opportunities are limited and restricted. So how do the standards work? And, you know, here's a little bit of theory on the standards. You may know this. If you do, great. If you don't, it's just a little bit of food for thought, because they're actually quite important. They're going to accompany you right throughout your journey as a teacher. So here we've got teachers at the bottom. Okay, we're the common thing along with the Australian professional standards. So teachers and standards are inextricably linked. Okay, that's what we're assessed by. At the graduate level, you're going to need to produce and reflect those standards in order to get your provisional registration. So once you get provisional registration as a teacher, you're going to have to demonstrate all 7. You could be called on an interview to show evidence of your work in all 7 standards. Once you become accredited as a first-year teacher, you then become years 1 to 7 here in Queensland, what we call a junior teacher or a level teacher. And then you need to develop each year proficiency. Now, the Australian College of Teachers asks you to register and re-register each year. And when you do your renewal, you will need to cite evidence of your proficiency in certain areas. And of course, that becomes part of your renewal process and your re-registration as a teacher. Once you've done that for 7 years, you become what we call a senior teacher here in Queensland, and you are supposedly highly accomplished. And what that means is you're now then starting to complete courses with Education Queensland, courses with national universities, courses with professional bodies, where you're getting certification. And that certification is acting as evidence in your professional portfolio. Once you've done that for a period of time, you become a senior teacher after 10 years. You then start applying for leadership positions. You may even do it sooner if you're in an area which is, quite dynamic and flexible. And again, you're looking at certification, postgraduate qualifications. Education Queensland has leadership programs. You can't be promoted to a senior position unless you're part of that leadership program. So, standards and the documentation of standards are pretty important stuff. So when Wendy threw you this task, she wasn't plucking it out of left field. She was plucking it out of the necessity that this is going to travel with you for the rest of your teaching career. It's awkward, but it's not a difficult task to comply with either. You can create a portfolio and just keep developing it. There are the 7 standards. In case you forget, that's where we began this course. And you can see they're quite varied. Know students and how they learn, content, planning, supportive and safe learning environments, feedback and reporting, engaging in professional learning, and engaging professionally with colleagues, parents, and members of the community. Now, if you have a look at CQU's assessment sheets when we go out to visit you, and I've just been doing that today, I've been visiting 2 schools and assessing students in their graduate diploma of teaching and learning program. It's the first 5 standards really that form the basis of the assessment. These ones are pretty hard to gauge in a classroom situation. You really need to go and look at the evidence that people have in their portfolios. But they're the ones here that Wendy's pointing us to. Standards 6 and 7, engage in professional learning and engage professionally with colleagues, parents, carers, and the community. And you can see here is your PLN activity. Okay, it's pretty much what she set us out to do, and hence the reflection, our final task for assessment, task 2. There they are, the 2 things we have to look at. Understand how to improve professional practice and the effective use of digital resources and tools, including the evaluation and reflection on current research and professional practice, etc., etc. And here's another one, engage with professional teaching networks and broader communities. And we've talked about flipping the classroom. We've talked about the contributing student model. Now, if we're doing those things with the digital pedagogy, we are engaging with the broader community and we're engaging with teacher networks. And so they're the 2 standards that we have to reflect upon in this particular reflection task. So the range of opportunities for sharing and enhancing. So that's what you're expected to demonstrate as a graduate, that you understand there's a range of opportunities. Then you would go to your portfolio and say, here's a couple of examples of the opportunities that I've explored. And you'd give some examples and demonstrations of that. So this task really will pick up its place in your professional portfolio. Very few courses that you'll do in this university or any other actually offer you the opportunity to demonstrate ICT competencies. We are starting a robotics program later in the year, and we'll issue invitations for people to get involved in that. We're also running a drone project, which involves CQU students working with teachers out in the community and doing professional and CPD, continuing professional development activities around the use of drones in education. So, and we're also doing that with robotics as well. So what we aim to do is to give you guys opportunities to pick up those skills. And having done this in Cairns, It's a really interesting thing to have done. And what I'll do is I'll just bring up the chat while I'm here, just so that anyone who's got a question but is not active online, who can't actually use a microphone for various reasons, can actually talk through the chat. It's John, hey everyone, and Tia saying hi, John. So, okay, so what I'm saying here is when we get into this, when I was up in Cairns, I actually put together a group of about 40 undergraduate students and some postgraduate students who got very heavily involved in robotics. And look, they all graduated straight into schools. Schools really value STEM, and they value teachers with STEM skills. And every single one of those students had a position with a school, really from year 3 right through their final year in year 4. So, you know, it's a great way when we talk about professional learning. It's a great way to get yourself involved and network. So, you know, technology does offer a lot of opportunities. Here are some of the differentiated descriptors at the graduate level. So I've taken descriptor number 6, and you can see it's comprised 4 focus areas: 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, and 6.4. The one that Wendy wants us to talk about is 6.2, engage in professional learning and improve our practice. And you can see, for instance, here what a graduate student is expected to do. When you go to an interview, people want to see, you know, your potential employees, usually a panel of principals and deputy principals, will want to measure your understanding of relevant and appropriate sources of professional learning for teachers. Okay, so that's, you know, and again, you're going to need to point to these and demonstrate that you've connected with them. Now, it's very hard for us in remote areas to do that. And so, again, we're going to rely on technology as to be the great connector here. And you can see as we go along the hierarchy, we're going to need to develop and demonstrate different skills. When we become graduate and become proficient, highly accomplished, and ultimately when we're a leader in the education department, driving a very flush car and parking in our own little principal spot, then there's certain things that we're going to be doing here that we're not doing down here as graduate students. Here, we look at the understanding. You'll demonstrate some connections and you'll show some curriculum applications in your portfolio where you've engaged in professional learning. Up here, you're what we call a Boyd. You're at the center of that professional learning community. You have your own little pelodron, your own little pack that you drive, and you're a member of some fairly elite groups who are, you know, engaged in a whole range of research and quality opportunities. So again, evidence here of how the standards work. Don't ignore them. You know, this reflection task is there for a reason. It may seem like, you know, an ashtray on a motorbike. It may seem somehow irrelevant, but in fact, go back to the standards, have a look, and see what comments you can possibly make. Some questions that you might like to explore when you're looking at those standards. And if you do nothing but follow 5 or 4 of these questions in your reflection, you know, you will have done fine. You'll have ticked that box. So what is your teaching philosophy regarding ICTs in teaching? Has it shifted since you started this course? And how do you believe that children learn best using ICTs? So what has SAMA taught you? What have you learned about going from low-level pedagogies to high-level pedagogies using SAMA? The second point, how have you demonstrated the actual standards 6.2 and 7.4? Where have you done this? Can you hyperlink to any examples? Point number 3, what was your experience in your personal and professional learning as a contributor and participant in these learning communities? What did you do? How did you do it? Why did you do it? Link to it. Give us an example. Did your professional network help shape your digital pedagogy? Any evidence you can link to? If the answer to that is no, explain why. You know, the digital professional network really, due to time constraints and space constraints, you know, it was out of sync. It's an asynchronous network, so it means people aren't talking at once, and the gaps between comments were too far apart. So really the professional sharing was limited and clunky and really quite not productive. It wasn't a productive pedagogy. And finally, what is the process of knowledge sharing for you as a pre-service teacher? How is it happening? Where are you getting your knowledge from? And there's a couple of you in this group, for instance, who are actually knowledge leaders. You know, you are coaches in this course, and people are looking to you and looking to your blogs, looking to your wikis, looking to the work you do, and really they're following you. You know, there's a pelodron forming around some members in this group. So that's the knowledge sharing, okay? Others of you have found knowledge in different areas. Scoop it, is not a knowledge repository, and hopefully you've realised that from your engagement with it. It's not a knowledge repository. It's more like a garbage bag. Okay, so you know, again, it requires very careful measurement. If you want to turn it into a recycling badge where you can recycle what you catch in your scoop it, then you need to do a lot more work. So they're just 5 questions that might help you with this reflection. You may have your own. I'm going to throw over to you now and let you comment. Is anybody doing anything in their reflection that they think might be interesting or worth sharing? Now, we've got 6 of you out there. Somebody must be doing something exciting. And I don't mean...
Hi, Colin. I don't know if my reflection's exactly exciting yet, but I've added a lot of links to evidence. I don't know if that's exciting. I don't know. I've embedded like links to different things. Like I've got my examples with my Scoopit and examples with the Twitter of people sharing ideas and commenting on mine and stuff like that.
That's brilliant, Phoebe, just brilliant. And that's what's required. You're not meant to write a voluminous essay here. And I will get that from people. What they'll do is just go into their blog, they'll cut and paste it into their reflection. And I'm just thinking, what's the point? Why not just link to the blog or link to the wiki or link to whatever it is you want to link to? So I'd fully endorse that. And as a matter of fact, that's I think that's the standard we're looking for here. You know, well done. Anybody experience any difficulty with the reflection? Anybody gone sort of reflection blank?
Yeah, Colin, Rodney. Haven't got there yet, Colin. It's so what I'm looking at here, that PowerPoint you're showing me, that I must have missed it. I was not focused. That's what you're asking us to address in our reflection, those 5 questions. There's
some ideas, Rodney, in case people are stuck. In case you are stuck, they're just some questions.
I like your ideas.
Yeah, and if you address those sequentially, then you can easily link from those questions to a small explanation, and from there to examples. So for instance, you can link to 6.2, which looks at professional networks, and you can go there to look at your curated resources, and you can just simply hyperlink to your curated insight there and the comments around it. So it's just gives you a means to move backwards and forwards around this reflection, and bear in mind it's a reflection. You can't be wrong. There's no wrong in a reflection. There's just the level of detail, doing the reflection justice. Any other comments or questions people would like to ask? Anything not, we can expand that now. Anything not related to the reflection? I welcome any questions there too.
Colin, it's Helen here. I'm a little bit concerned with my word count because I've got ideas of my reflection in very much note form at the moment, but I'm sitting well over 3,000 words. And because my pedagogy map was quite extensive. So then I was having to try and condense my narrative a little bit. So I'm just wondering, how strict is the word count going to be?
Right. So this notion of a word count, I think, came from one comment that Wendy made based on the example that she put up. I have not seen written anywhere a word count. Can anyone correct me on that? Is that true?
That's what I was going from as the example where, I saw that. So,
yeah. Don't be bound by that, Helen. I would argue, really, when you're doing a word count, for instance, if you're writing a PhD or a master's thesis, tables generally don't count in the word count. So, a table really is an illustration of a series of points and concepts linked in a secular or sequential way. So it's not new knowledge, it's usually a summary device. So it's really generally not what we consider part of the word count. And so, I'll give you some freedom there. If you're at 4,000 instead of 3,000 words, then it just means I stay up a bit later.
Thank you, because I have had some markers in the past who have been really particular, so I just wanted to check, so thank you.
No, there's nothing in the criteria, Helen, so I don't think it'd be fair of me to discriminate on that as a criteria.
Yeah, Colin, it's Rodney. It is in the unit profile under task details. It says that the total length of the task is anticipated to be the equivalent of 3,000 words.
Anticipated to be the equivalent. Again, that's very shapeless, isn't it? I mean, as I said, you know, by the time you take out your hyperlinks and your tables, and you know, I'm going to argue that, you know, I'd go plus or minus 25% on that 3,000, really, without batting an eyelid, frankly, as a marker. And I can say that with confidence because I will be marking your work.
Good to hear.
And double line spacing, Colin?
Preferably, yes. Yeah, that way if the need arises, we can write anything in between the lines. If I mark them digitally, of course, I'll attach little stickers and send them back that way. But if you can double space, that would be great. Being as we're not printing, that's probably a safe thing to do.
And you were talking last week, you just wanted in Weebly us to just upload the file, and that's it, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so two ways to present it. Obviously, you can put the when you upload into the Moodle, just upload it as a Word document. And then if you've got things that you're connecting to or linking to, by way of example, as Phoebe's pointed to already, they're embedded blogs or embedded feedback, hyperlink to them from your Word document so that, you know, the links will be seamless and accessible.
So in Moodle, is it the Word document or just a URL to our Weebly?
Again, if you're putting everything in your Weebly, I would, I mean, question first for you. Do you have a Word document copy of your assignment?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just purely working out of a Word document.
Yeah, then that's what I would load to the Moodle my Word document. And then if that Word document coexisted in your Weebly, then so be it. It's there as a, you know, as a standalone resource for your future reference and use. But there's two purposes there. One, you've got the activity purpose of the Word document and all your Weebly resources. That's your learning sequence, that's your complete assignment embedded there. The second thing you're submitting to me is a gateway to that. So you'd be submitting the Word document to me and it would have all live links on it that I could simply go into your Weebly and look. And if I went into your Weebly, I'd see your Word document in there as well. So that's fine. And the reason we do that, of course, is you may have peer teachers who are teaching the same unit. So everyone would have the Weebly address. They'd go in there and they'd have the guide that you needed them to have.
Thanks.
Good. Any other questions?
Colin, just in one of our other units, the APA formatting has been quite an issue. Is there anything else you require except for double line spacing? Are you specific on?
No, I say double line spacing purely because it makes it easier to read.
So font and paragraph indentations and everything. Look,
CQ actually recognises four. It recognises four independent referencing formats. There's the APA one, the Harvard one, MLA, and there's one other too. MLA, I think, is the Massachusetts system. My two favourites are APA or Harvard. And Harvard's can be a little bit looser. I mean, it's really the author date system. And that's Harvard, and it's a little bit looser and a little bit less rigid. And that's why, you know, I usually recommend that at the undergraduate level, Harvard's a good system to use. If you're doing a PhD or a master's, I think move into APA because it's, you know, EndNote does that for you. You can set it up using APA conventions without thinking. But at this stage, my suggestion would be pick one method for referencing and adhere to that method. Be consistent. If you stray from that method or if it starts to look like a dog's breakfast, then clearly that's going to create reliability problems for your work. But if you adopt the Harvard method and you're consistent within the Harvard applications, great. That's all you need to do. If you adopt APA and you're consistent with an APA formats, excellent. MLA, same thing. And the final one, I can't actually remember what that was. So it's about consistency. You know, there's no one correct method. Referencing is, it demonstrates your studentness. In other words, here I am swimming around a pool and I found a couple of things to hang on to, and these, you know, here's what they are. You refer to them. You know, these are my landmarks in my my thought process. You know, these are the landmarks I'm referencing. So, and you can do that using one of 4 systems. As long as you're consistent with the one you use, you won't be penalised and it won't be an issue.
Thank you.
Any other questions or observations? And again, I'll just repeat that aspect of the word limit. It is anticipated to be around 3,000. Okay, then we talk about inclusions, exclusions, and I mean, I wouldn't include tables in that. You know, and I'm happy, you know, I say to you now with great confidence, I'm happy to go plus or minus 25%. It'd be hard to do this assignment going minus 25%, I think, down to 2,000 words, but going up to 4,000 words, it's quite possible. The assignment's got 7 parts. You know, in order to do them justice, you are going to have to give yourself a little bit of space to do that. Even if you are using, as Phoebe indicated, you're using hyperlinks and you're doing a whole lot of word saving and you know, editing and using tables as summary devices, you're still going to struggle, I think, to get below 4,000 words. All right, so we've reached a point of hiatus of silence. Any questions? Someone's about to comment there?
Well, Colin, I was just going to say, I looked at my Word document, and at the present time, if I look at the total word count for all the tables, all of writing reflections, including reference lists, it's like in 5,000 words, and I don't know if that's bad to say, but I mean, if you're not including tables and referencing and stuff, it would be around the 3,000 mark, I would suppose. So it seems doable.
Absolutely, yeah. And look, you know, the notion here is unfair advantage, and I think, look, you're not getting unfair advantage by following the set task. So, you know, to be set a task and to complete it in the correct amount of words, you know, your pedagogical map is really an illustrative thing. By the time you've finished your mini unit, you've converted that map into practice. So really, you know, that's the expression, the realization of your original summary table. So, you know, I think don't worry too much about word limits. The only time you'd be penalised, for instance, is if you know, you just seem to be writing War and Peace, whereas a simple reflection might have done the task just as well. And you know, so there's, at no point will I stop reading. At no point will I highlight, you know, that you've gone, okay, you know, you've gone 75 words over the limit. If you're on task and the task is developing and evolving, and it's part of your schematic, it's part of your rollout schema, then it's part of the assessment as far as I'm concerned, and I'm comfortable going plus or minus 25%. And I'll say that again, okay? Just make them good. Excite me so I can stay up at night and read them. If there's no further comments, we might call a close there and I invite you to use the forum. I will post this obviously on the forum tomorrow morning, and I might get it even burned tonight and posted, but certainly today's video lecture's up there. You can watch Taylor Marley and have a really good nod and chuckle to yourself. He's quite a character. I want to thank you all for your commitment to turning up at this time every week and to being the students you are and to asking the questions you've asked. You've certainly made my job much more enjoyable and much more interesting. And I also encourage you, please, to fill in the course evaluation and, you know, be realistic. Give feedback if you can, make the feedback balanced. And, you know, you've been around this university long enough to know to how to feedback. So I won't say too much there, but, you know, we do encourage your feedback because it gives us things that we can address going forward. So, look, I look forward to getting your work. And if you do submit it early, certainly I'll be able to mark them early. So there's no bonus in that for you other than the fact that it'd be a great thing to get started on that. And just wish you all the luck, and hope next term is good for you, and your journey as a CQU student continues to be positive. So please keep the questions coming.
Thanks, Colin.
Thank you, Colin.
Thanks, Colin.
Thank you,
guys.
Colin.
You're
Good luck,
welcome.
everyone.
Good luck, everyone.